Hey guys, it's Tiffany from the blog growingdawn.com. Today I wanted to share with you guys what we eat in a day. I asked you guys, if you're on Instagram, I asked you over there if you all would be interested in seeing a video like this, and most of you said that you were. So I post a lot on Instagram about using sourdough and just cooking food for my family because that's something that I spend seemingly half my life doing. Anyway, I thought it would be kind of fun to take the camera along with me on a day where I was cooking breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which is most days, for our family of 6, including 4 hungry boys and a hungry husband. So when I cook, I really try to only use whole foods. We follow kind of a Nourishing Traditions Weston A. Price style diet, which if you don't know what that is, I will leave some links down below so that you can look into that a little more. But basically what it means is we really focus on eating healthy fats, including animal fats and protein. And when we do eat grains, we try to make sure that they are either soaked, sprouted, or fermented. We also try to limit our processed sugar intake. So you'll find that a lot of the foods that I make incorporate this style of cooking. Let's start with breakfast. On this day, I got up and I had quite a bit of sourdough starter to use. But what I'm doing is I am just taking sourdough discard and spreading it on a pizza stone. And this is going to be the crust for a breakfast pizza. I do have a recipe for this super simple sourdough crust or flatbread on my blog, which I will link below. I sprinkled a little bit of kosher salt on top and put it in the oven at 400 degrees. So now I'm going to cook some pastured sausage up. Most of the time when I make this, I already have crumbled cooked sausage or bacon bits in the fridge, but today I had to go ahead and cook some just for this recipe. And while my sausage is cooking up, I'm going to go ahead and feed my starter so that it is active by this evening and I can use it again. I try to make use of my time in the kitchen the best I can. So here I'm going to bring in some garden fresh tomatoes that we just harvested the day before. I'm going to dice up 2 small tomatoes. I love using tomatoes on breakfast pizza because they don't require any extra cooking. Another great addition to this recipe would be peppers and onions, but we like peppers and onions to be a little bit softer, so I would have to dice those up and saute them a little bit. So usually I just stick with tomatoes because I can just dice them up and throw them right on the pizza. I had leftover scrambled eggs from the day before that I am putting on this pizza. Now, it took me a very long time to figure out a way to use leftover scrambled eggs. And I will say that this recipe lends itself perfectly to leftover scrambled eggs. So don't throw them out if you have them. Make a breakfast pizza with them. Now I'm adding my crumbled sausage and adding some shredded mozzarella cheese as well as some shredded cheddar cheese. So I'm going to put that back in my 400 degree oven for about 10 minutes. It's super simple. This was a great way to use up the leftover scrambled eggs that I had. It's very filling, full of protein, and has that nice addition of the fermented grains in the crust. Let's move on to lunch. For lunch, I did something super simple and quick. We do usually have a lot going on, so easy, quick meals are definitely a staple and a necessity in our house too. So for lunch, I am making tuna melt sandwiches. I love this little marble cheese board with a slicer. This exact one I got from Target, and it's no longer being made, but I will link a similar one below. It's really pretty and useful. And yes, I do make my own bread when I can, but as you can see, I am not above buying bread because things can get really busy around here. So here I'm just using a loaf of sprouted bread that I had in the freezer. I'm gonna spread some butter on, add some tuna and cheese, and get to grilling these sandwiches. I'm gonna spread a little bit of home canned relish on the sandwiches. Normally I would do this before I cook the sandwiches, but I forgot, so I'm just gonna spread a little on. Now I am actually not a huge relish fan except for on these tuna melt sandwiches. I love just the touch of flavor that it adds. So while the kids are eating their sandwiches, I decided to go ahead and slice up a watermelon that we got from our garden. This will make a nice addition to our lunch. As you can see, they eat it almost as fast as I can cut it. That I really try to do when I cook is use up what needs to be used up, and that goes for produce that we get from the garden, or leftovers in the fridge, or canned goods that have been sitting for a while and need to be used. I'm always trying to get creative with the meals that I make and use what I have because it saves us a lot of money and it ensures that nothing goes to waste. So for dinner, I decided to use up some leftover rice and some bell peppers from the abundance that we have in the garden and do a simple Asian stir fry. So I'm going to chop up a couple of bell peppers from our garden. I love using these colorful peppers. I don't like to dice up my pepper and onion super fine for stir fry like this. So I'm kind of slicing my pepper and my onion into strips. Now that I have that done, I'm going to mince a few cloves of garlic. And hopefully you guys can kind of see by now that I don't really use recipes, I just kind of make it up as I go. Since I've been cooking for so long, it's kind of become intuitive. I don't feel the need to measure out or know the exact amount of things to use. It just kind of happens. Now I am opening up a package of boneless, skinless chicken thighs, and I'm going to dice these up kind of small to put in our stir fry. I'm using my large 14-inch cast iron skillet, which is my absolute favorite skillet. I'm gonna add some coconut oil, let that get nice and hot, and then add my chicken first. And then while the chicken is still cooking, I'm gonna add my veggies and my garlic and let that all cook together. Now I'm adding some ground ginger to season. You want to be sure you use plenty of oil with a dish like this. I used a good amount of coconut oil to ensure that the chicken didn't stick and the veggies didn't char too much. Yeah, so this is a good example of my randomness in cooking, I guess. I had a block of frozen shredded zucchini that I wanted to use up, so I decided to just pull that out of the fridge and throw it in there. So now my zucchini is no longer frozen. Everything has cooked pretty well. Now I'm going to make my sauce right in the pan. I'm adding probably about 1/4 to 1/3 cup of soy sauce, a couple tablespoons of honey, a few drizzles of sesame oil, a few tablespoons of rice vinegar, and probably a couple teaspoons of sriracha. Those are the ingredients for my sauce. I'm also going to make a slurry out of soy sauce and arrowroot powder. You could also use cornstarch for this, but I prefer arrowroot powder because it's non-GMO and it's healthier. And here I am adding a little more honey. So just let all that cook, and the slurry is going to allow that sauce to thicken up. Now I am pulling out my leftover rice with the baby on my hip. As you can see, he was getting a little impatient. Now that everything is cooked, you can see that sauce is nice and glossy and thick. I'm going to add in my cooked leftover rice and incorporate that in. I just served this in 2 bowls, and the sauce was very flavorful. I think a lot of times people see cooking as this thing that has to be done like a science, like it needs to be done a certain way. That's not the way I cook, as you can see. I mean, obviously there's techniques that need to be done a certain way, but I knew that my chicken and my veggies and that frozen zucchini, if I just let it simmer in that hot pan long enough, it was all gonna cook and the veggies were gonna become tender and the chicken was gonna be cooked through. I just thought I would say that to not be too stressed, I guess, about the order that you do certain things, and just kind of follow your gut and learn from your mistakes and be willing to step out and try something different. So there is a little example of what we eat in a day. If you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below. I will see you guys in the next video.